Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in a home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Yeah, you go to an exchange for breakfast. Say you watch Detroit in black and white, they give you 20% off. And if you drink your lunch, they give you 20% off, or your breakfast or whatever. McCain. Bob Roberts, Michigan and Trumbull. Welcome to Detroit in black and white, our Wednesday edition. Vanessa, you back. I thought you was a fugitive. Lieutenant Philip Gerard was looking for you.
I was a fugitive, but I decided to, you know what, to be honest with you, ICE came and picked me up. And let me stop joking.
They took you to Mexico, right?
Mexico. But no, I had some things going on, so I was off for a couple of weeks, but I am so happy to be back.
And we're happy to have you back because, people was looking for you, and I don't want people to say, they got rid of Vanessa, the woman voice, etc. Wish we could, but we can't.
You can't get rid of me.
Jim Nardone used to be part of the what motorcycle club you belong to, Jim?
Well, I was riding today, and my only advice to you, if you want to know if it's going to rain, give me a call, because every time I get on my motorcycle, it rains. So,
well, you know what? I have to give you credit, Jim. Listen, you couldn't get me on a bike. You couldn't pay me to get on a bike, and I'm not getting on a bike. So anyway, and people like you, y'all just enjoy it. And I like looking at motorcycles. They some of the best looking vehicles in the world. And I remember going to Mario's one time. I used to see this older guy there. He had a different bike. Every time I saw him there, we talked, shoot the breeze. He buy me a drink. I buy him a drink. Then one day I pick up the Free Press. They said, highwayman arrested. And he was right there. I said, that's a guy. But they got off, They beat the federal government. Allan Lengel. What's up?
Not much. Good evening.
Okay. Vanessa, since you haven't been around, we're gonna go you're gonna get the first round. Go ahead.
I have something to talk about. Well, first of all, I want to say hello to everybody that's in the chat making comments. Karen Winston, Eric Brown, Timo. He said, who listens to libtard CNN folk? Well, I don't know who he's talking about, but thank you for listening to Detroit Black and White. Cynthia Burnett, thanks for listening, and Edward A. And for all those, Stephanie Jackson, thank you so much for watching Detroit Black and White. So the first thing I want to talk about is Monday, I was walking in the court and I ran into one of my colleagues that I respect. And we're talking about the mayoral race, but the conversation actually evolved to, we're talking about the churches and how they got this big voters registration thing going on in the city of Detroit. And so we started talking about the boycott, the Target boycott. And so, I think the Target boycott was effective, has been effective. They've been screaming. You had stockholders suing because they were mad that they got rid of DEI and, all this. And I didn't even call it Target. I call it Target because I would go in Target and you cannot go in Target and spend less than $100. So
Huh.
I'm spending money in Target. Well, the Black Baptist Convention decided that they were going to make a deal for $300,000. As far as I'm concerned, it's free, but I'd like to know who these ministers were that were sitting in the room that made this deal. And he and I were both talking about it. I think it is outrageous. People should be really pissed off. But more importantly, listen, the Black church is the bastion of the civil rights movement. The Black church is,
Not anymore, Vanessa.
clearly not anymore. The Black church.
It ain't been that way. It ain't been that way. It ain't been that way for 30, 40 years. It ain't been that.
$1,000, guys.
What was the agreement?
I'm still not going to shop in Target.
What's the agreement? What was the agreement?
You know what? I saw the headlines and
They got $2. They represent 7 million people in their churches, and they took $300,000. Target is $1 billion business. They had promised $2 billion that they were going to spend in the Black community. They gave the preacher pimps $300,000, and that's just the way it is. They sold it.
They?
It don't matter who they are. They took the money. The Baptist convention. Listen, that's why these churches are empty on Sunday, because people are not buying it. They're not buying it, baby. They're not buying it.
But listen, my question is this. Who was sitting at this table and said, yes, this is a good idea? And
you know who was sitting at the table? You know who was sitting at the table? L. Sharpton clones. They were sitting at the table.
When I tell you it's outrageous, it's outrageous.
Well, it's outrageous, but they got the money, and they're gonna move on. Whatever they're gonna do with it, it's not gonna make a difference. You know what? It's like when the boycott. Remember the boycott of Fairlane when the guy got killed at Lord and Taylor?
Yes.
And Detroiters was boycotting Fairlane, and it was an effective boycott. There's no question. Guess who broke the boycott?
Oh, tell us, please. Do tell.
The preachers, Reverend Holly and the preachers. They broke the boycott.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you, but that's just the way it is. And you know.
And why are they protected? Because I want to know who was in the room, what church.
And you're never gonna know who was in the room. You're never gonna know. You're never gonna know. Don't get a headache. Don't get a headache thinking they just sold out. And that's the way it is.
Listen,
that's the way it is. That's the way it is.
Was so outdone that I didn't want to believe what I was reading.
They got bought off. They got bought off. They got bought off. And that's and you get that because you get folks that's they're gonna find somebody that's gonna break the boycott. And somebody is gonna do what they're gonna do. They're not gonna stand tall.
Dollars. Do you know how much money they make?
It don't matter. This is what they asked for. This is what they asked for. This is what they got.
$100,000.
But that wasn't you. You're not part of the Baptist convention. So
it's like having a class action lawsuit where the lawyers make all the money and everybody get from Verizon or whatever, you get a check for $34.
Right.
And these law firms get hundreds of millions of dollars. Target, by the way, their profits were $4 billion last year. So,
okay, well, that's just the way it is. Listen, another thing I saw, these check cashing places here in the city. Allan, should we have them? Should we ban them? Because they're predatory.
Yeah, they are predatory. I think there should be some educational classes or something for people. You can open a bank account, you can put in 100. People don't realize that they're averse to the banks. I don't know if they don't trust them or they just don't know, but yeah, I mean, people have to be educated on what the downside is of using these check cashing places.
Listen, those places are predatory, and these are people who can't get a credit card. These are people that are unbanked, okay? And so, or they have a bank account, but they can't get credit, and they can't pay their bills, so they go and get one of these loans, right? They have no idea that they're going to be paying them forever. They need to be banned, outlawed. It is ridiculous. They prey on the poor. They open up these places in neighborhoods. They're not open up in your neighborhood, Adolph or Allan. They open up.
Well, I want to ask Jim. Are there any check cashing places in Trenton downriver?
There are a couple, 2 or 3 maybe, but not.
So what do you think about it?
Well, it's like a loan shark, right? They're giving you a little money and you're paying them back double what they gave you or more. It's awful. It's predatory practice for sure.
Now you double it's a double whammy. If you don't pay it back on time, they're gonna put it on a credit report. Like most of them care less because they can't get credit in the first place. It's like the EBT cards when they first got them. As somebody figured out, you can go to the casino and gamble with it. You can get some money. They didn't know that. You know, people are real smart and innovative when it comes to trying to get paid, and then that was a big deal. Oh, they going to the casino. I got $200 on my EBT card, and I spent it up in the casino.
But Adolph, that's different than a check. This check and go or check and cash or whatever the heck you call them. That's different. I have a problem with somebody who has an EBT card and you take your EBT card to the doggone casino.
I don't have a problem with it.
I do. Buy some food with
I don't.
So
I don't. And they spend their money. They spend their money. I'm not telling people they gotta buy some ground turkey or some hamburger. They can spend their money if they can take it to the casino. That's on them. That ain't on. Listen, if I give you some money, listen. But if I give you some money, if I loan you some money, wait a minute, Vanessa, wait a minute. Listen, this ain't Stephen A. Smith. You can't do that. Okay, you can't do that. Just listen, and just if you want to spend your money on some bullshit, that's on you. But don't come crying later saying you don't have nothing because you unfuck your money up. We can't keep doing this shit. But I'm just upset that now they put it on a credit report. First they take out the medical bills off the credit report. Now they putting something else on the credit report. Credit report don't mean shit. Allan, go ahead.
I was going to say, shouldn't there be restrictions on like EBT cards or whatever they can? Spending at the casino or a weed shop or whatever.
Yes.
Hey, you don't like my music? Thanks for tuning in. You're right. Gambling is an addiction. Joe Cool. Hello, Joe Cool. Arande. I was going back to one. I almost lost it. Queen Bee, our friend out there, she wants to know if you're calling me Mr. Rogers. You've been down this neighborhood plenty of times, Adolph. Have you seen check cashing places down here?
No.
I mean, you're like a part-time resident in Trenton, so.
Trenton, Southgate, Melvindale, Riverview, Gibraltar, all the places up there. But I'm gonna just tell you, listen, they pile it up, and they pile all these restrictions up on poor people, and they use them as an example of what's wrong in America, and the people that's doing all the fucking scumbag shit are folks that got money, millionaires, billionaires, etc.
Let me ask you a question about that.
Yes.
May I?
Yes.
So we went from Target to check cashing. So Target and let's couple of the other ones, Walmart, Menards, these are all organizations that have fought against workers' rights since they become companies, right? They don't
Yeah.
care about the working people. They don't care about unions. They don't care about healthcare. They don't care about pensions. These are people that have been fighting against what's good for this country for 50 years. And we're still shopping at Walmart and Target and Menards.
I
So
don't.
it's the same
Jim,
thing,
I
only on
don't.
a different scale, if you ask me.
But you know what, Jim, Allan, and Adolph, who own these check cashing places? The banks. The banks. The very bank.
But
Sometimes
but but you know what I found out about the banks? That I had a problem with the ATM machine, and PNC told me they don't own an ATM machine. It's a third party. I'm like, damn, but it says PNC, and then if you get a cashier's check, it's not from PNC, even though PNC name is on it. It's a third party. You know what? It's been a scam for a long time.
It's a racket, it's a scam, and they all tied together. And it's unfortunate that these people, as Jim talked about, these big companies, they getting rich off of who? Poor folks.
How
Y'all
many banks? How many banks are in the hood, Lengel?
How many banks? There's, there's
Not
not a
many.
lot, not
in the
enough,
hood, he
not
don't know
enough.
about the
I
hood.
mean, yeah, I mean they're around, but not.
PNC moved from downtown. They even moved their ATM. They
Well,
they got
part of
one branch right there on the Woodward. And
right.
I'm just telling you but I can drive down 4th Street and see 2 or 3 PNCs. I'm just telling you
But,
what the deal is.
yeah, but what's happening with the banks is I used to bank we used to have our offices on Griswold there. I used to go at Congress and Griswold to PNC, and one day the woman, I'm always going over there, and she says, "Hey, have you used our app yet on our our phone app?" And I go, "No," and she goes, "Here, you don't have to come in anymore." She says, "Here's how you deposit a check, and here's you transfer your money, and here and suddenly it's like they're like." The banks were empty. People were banking on their
That's
phone.
how Big Brother keep account of what's going on
But senior citizens,
into the
but
bank.
but senior citizens still uses
No
banks
question.
and stuff, and there's no checks. It used to be the mailman used to get beat up because the nephew was trying to get the check from the grandmama or the grandfather. They was bringing checks. I don't know if they even bring checks anymore. So it's
Well,
it's a new world, and this is what we're dealing with.
but let me go to some of these viewers, and you say it's a new world, but it's the same thing. We done figured out another way.
Okay, go ahead, and then we're gonna move on. Go ahead to
Jackie
the.
says it's coming. She talked about that EBT card. She said it's coming free every month. Uh, Karen said, but isn't that food stamps? Queen B said they are check and gas downriver, but they might as well be a liquor stores because the fees are the same. Wow. Joe Cool said those payday loan places are in every working class community. Edward A said, Adolph, you're right. That's just like if I loaned you $100 and told you to spend the money I just gave you. Miss Sheila says, speak, Mr. Jim, in capital letters. Karen said, right, Jim. Jill, hey, Jill. She said, bingo. Stephanie says, the same people that own the check cash stores own the liquor stores and the gas stations. G Money said, why take your EBT and buy this genetically modified food? I would take the card and go to the casino too. The very food you are talking about buying, including organic, is suspect. It's a gamble you take. Wow. And Queen B said, laugh out loud. Wow. Thank you for participating. Keep it coming.
Go ahead, Allan.
I was going to say credit cards. People are paying. Some people are only paying the interest. They owe $10,000-$15,000. They're just paying $1,000 or $2,000 a month just in interest. You talk about extortion there, loan sharking. The credit card companies are getting away with murder. There's so little regulation on them.
That's interesting, Allan. You call it loan sharking, And you're absolutely right. The difference is they got white collars now. Back in the day, they used to be in the hood, right? Our folks used to make money off of loan sharking. Now it was illegal, right? They made that illegal. But now because these people wearing white collars, it's legal. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's
You're
terrible.
paying 25% on, some of
That's
those
crazy.
products, 25%. And literally people are filing for bankruptcy. They're only paying the principal, the interest on the loans. It's crazy.
Anyway, Jim, I'll go to you. Donald Trump was on live TV saying "fuck Iran" and Israel. Was that appropriate?
Of course not. I have an outrage, but I want to talk about this first. Back a few days ago, 3 days ago, the president of the United States called for an unconditional surrender for Iran. What the hell is he talking about? Who is Iran? Why is the president of the United States calling for? We're not at war with Iran. I saw a really interesting segment on CNN last night. Caught me watching CNN last night with our friend and former guest of the show, Dr. Cornel West. So he got into a little debate with that Scott Jennings, who's the conservative on CNN. And what was really, if you listen to Dr. West, you just have to listen to him, because his point was all the guests were saying, well, we have moral superiority over Iran. Well, aren't we stopping Iran to have something that we already possess? I think that was Dr. Cornel West's point. Why does anybody have nuclear arms? Why do we think we have moral superiority over some of these countries? He made some great points if people will listen to him. I don't agree with everything he says. I don't think it's unconstitutional. But when did we declare war on Iran, and why are we in someone else's?
And we did. And you know what? And when is the media going to say something is wrong with this man? I'm sorry, if he was my father, I would be saying we might have to put him in long-term care, because this motherfucker lost it. I ain't lying. You're absolutely right, Jim. Allan, you want to say something?
No, I mean, the whole thing is interesting, and I mean, it's also when you talk, he's saying surrender. Look, first of all,
surrender to who?
Yeah, Iran had a deal with the U.S. that they brokered on nuclear to be regulated, to be monitored. Trump threw it out and is basically trying to get the same thing again. Now he's claiming, he says, they're decimated. They struck primarily three sites, and they may have decimated the sites to some degree, but there's also some intelligence that some of the uranium was loaded up on trucks and taken to another place. I mean, the Iranians aren't stupid. I mean, when you're telegraphing for weeks that we need that big 30,000 pound bomb for our Fordson or whatever nuclear reactor, why would they wait and say, let's see what happens? Maybe Trump won't do it.
No, they wasn't waiting. But I'm going to make it real simple for people that don't understand the nuclear shit. I got a Cadillac, and Allan wants a Cadillac, but I beat Allan's ass because he can't. I'm the only person supposed to have a Cadillac. This is what we talking about. We got nuclear weapons. We don't want anybody else. Pakistan got nuclear weapons. India got nuclear weapons. Russia got nuclear weapons. Who knows? Israel got nuclear weapons. Israel had offered during the time of when apartheid was king in South Africa. They offered the South African government some nuclear weapons. Everybody got nuclear weapons.
France, North Korea.
Everybody got nuclear weapons. Why should I be the only one driving a Cadillac? Everybody wants a Cadillac. I want a Cadillac. Jim wants a Cadillac. Vanessa, you want a Cadillac. So now all of a sudden, I just stole Jim's Cadillac. Well, we found it 4 blocks away, and then I say, well, he ain't gonna be able to drive that Cadillac for a year. And the collision shop said, oh, he gonna drive it in a couple months because they gonna fix it up.
Right.
This is what
Right.
We got an idiot in the White House. I, they can't control him. And if you look at his Secretary of Defense and his Secretary of State, and they sit there and they like, why am I here? Oh man, it's just we're an embarrassment. He wants to, and I'm gonna tell you, he's gonna ban every country in Africa from coming to the U.S. He's gonna ban every half of the countries in Europe. He's going to isolate everybody because that's what he thinks that they're supposed to do. Alan.
This is the thing. Go ahead, Allan. I'm sorry.
I would say, generally speaking, although Russia may be, questionable in terms of their threats, it seems like most countries have nuclear weapons as a defensive. That they're not saying we're going to be aggressive and use it. I think the fear is with Iran, and rightfully or wrongly, the perception is that Iran is looking at it more to be more offensive than defensive.
Well, make Iran great again. This motherfucker, Iran, he's out of his fucking mind. Make Iran, we have been mixed up with Iranian politics when we overthrew the CIA, overthrew the Shah's daddy back in the 50s and put the Shah on the throne or whatever you want to call it. And then we let the Ayatollah kick the Shah off. And you know what? Do this guy read? Do he have somebody to tell him? Is somebody to tell him what's happening? I knew a politician, and I'm not going to say no names. The politician was talking about the Kashmir conflict with India and Pakistan, and they was trying to have a fundraiser with the Pakistanis. And I said, don't talk about Kashmir. And they said, is that where they make the sweaters?
Right. He's gonna say
kidding,
that.
right?
You know what? I'm like, you know what? You know what? I can't make this up. I said, no, Kashmir is a country. They thought they was fighting over sweaters.
Right.
Okay.
So Terry McCrimmon says, he says, in what world do you kill a country top nuclear scientists and some of their top military leaders? Then you say the war is over. Crazy. Allan, you don't like my music has a question. Says, why does anyone think that about Iran, Allan?
In terms of it being I mean, well, look, Iran has said that, death to Israel, death to America, whatever. They're in a region where, look, they've had proxies there. They have Hezbollah that's fought their battles. Hezbollah's gone into Syria and killed thousands of people for, Assad before Assad was overthrown. They have the Houthis. Iran's trying to spread its wings and
Well, but I can tell you, Vietnam, that we trade with Vietnam. They kill 60,000 of our people. Well, but yet we trade with them.
Vanessa,
Japanese rape and kill millions of Chinese and never apologize for it. And they trade with the Japanese. All this shit is just some bullshit. Jim, go ahead.
I just wanted, Vanessa, we have some really good input, and I wanted you to cover some of that. Go ahead.
Response is, you don't like my music, says political rhetoric. He says, so is the U.S. Stephanie says the Iranian people revolted against their leadership. She also indicated that they're trying to alienate the U.S. and they've revolted against their own leadership. You also have G Money. He says, trust me, Adolph, it's not difficult to drive a Cadillac. Just go to the dealership and they will lease you one with the quickness. A car is a poor investment. Lease or buy. It yields nothing positive.
Yeah, and nuclear weapons is a poor investment because you really can't use it. We got away with it. during World War II, and we wouldn't get away with it today. Go ahead, Allan.
I was going to say, up until really 2001, with some exceptions, the greatest interest the U.S. has had in the Middle East is economics. We have all these big oil companies doing business in the different areas there. When Kuwait was invaded in '93 by Iraq, we came to rescue Kuwait, not because we love Kuwait, because
we like their oil.
We like their oil. We don't want our economy. People start bitching about the oil prices, the gasoline and stuff like that. It's all, a lot of it's in the same reason that we were in Vietnam. I mean, we say we were there to fight communism, but we're also, some of the biggest companies had investments there, Coca-Cola and all these places. So,
well, the same way in Korea, it was a Singer sewing machine that had big investments in Korea. It's all about. It's always been political, and But we at this point, we got a president that says we're going to ban all these countries, and he don't know what we get from the continent of Africa, how we make cell phones and all this other shit, and he can ban all these countries. And then what you think they're gonna do? He tell Iran, don't you raise the prices of oil after I kill some of your people. Don't you do this. Oh, is he like you think he's in a school and he's spanking kids? And you better not go home and tell your parents that I beat your ass. When is the Senate and Congress gonna say enough with this asshole? When is the media gonna say enough with this asshole?
They've said it. I think the media has said it, and guess
what?
No,
they haven't.
Listen, this is my opinion. Oh, by the way, the opinions of the people on this panel belongs to those individuals.
You don't have to tell that. They know that. They know that. We don't.
And I'm also going to say, nobody tells me what to say, how to say it, when to say it, and how to say it, and where to say it. At any rate, listen, Jill Sheridan says it's all about the money, basically. And I'm saying that, listen, I think the media has said some things about him. And that is the reason why a lot of people voted for them, because they don't trust the media.
But I'm not listening. Because all these people that voted for him now crying like Rashida Tlaib is crying.
Well, that's a whole subject. We can talk about that.
But it's all the same people that's crying. You look at what happened in New York in the primary. We got a Democratic socialist. Do you think he's going to be the mayor? No, because Eric Adams running as an independent, and then you got the Republicans. But all I'm saying is, we got it's not a two-party system anymore. We got one party that's dominant, that's the Republican Party, and then we got another party that's split up into 500 factions, and they just let this shit go on. I ain't heard nothing from Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer.
What they have to say.
Well, because they don't have shit to say. They don't have shit to say.
That's why you haven't heard anything. Don't nobody want to hear what they have to say. People are turned off by the very people that you should just name. People are turned off by them.
We're gonna take a break. We're going to take a break. We're going to take one last break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to continue the conversation.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. Are you living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, or maybe you know someone who's in the same situation? The probate process may be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. We have several nonprofit partners who have free attorneys who can assist you. Contact our office, 313-224-5990, or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. Don't lose your family property. Some of these properties have been in the family for 4 or 5 generations. Contact us now. We're here to help.
Okay. We're back with Vanessa Moss. Welcome back, Vanessa, Jim, Nardone, and Eric. Eric. Eric is on Monday. Allan, how you doing?
Good, good. I just want to say, you know, it's interesting. You know, Trump was castigating a NBC reporter who was questioning how effective the bombing was and stuff like that. It was like, how dare you? These people risk their lives, and now you're questioning.
Did he say
But
so eloquently?
yeah, yeah, and the thing is, it's. I think it's good, even if it's the right thing to bomb. There should always be some opposition to war. In 2003, when the U.S. invaded Iraq, you know, people who opposed it, the minority, were criticized, and you know, they were seen as un-American, that you're not part of the team. But I think I
But
told.
we shouldn't have been in Iraq.
Right. I told the story before in 2003, right before we invaded, my neighbor around the block from me invited people from the Israeli embassy. I was talking to a guy who was a lawyer. His wife was a staff member of the Israeli embassy there. And I said to him, I said, what do you think about the U.S. invading Iraq? And he says, we're not worried about Iraq. He says, we think they're a secular nation. He goes, we don't think they have nuclear capability. He goes, we're worried about Iran. They're religious zealots. We think they have nuclear capability. I went the next day, told the foreign desk at the Washington Post, I said, hey, I'm hearing this, you know, and it ended up being, you know, solid intelligence. How could I, at just a casual party, talk to somebody and hear really what was truthful, as opposed to the U.S. that was tricked, duped into, you know, fighting?
But we have invaded every island in the Caribbean at one time because of our interests. We have had our foot on the back of the neck of Haiti since 1803. We making sure that they never evolved into shit. We have embargoed Cuba since 1960, 61. We make deals with China and Russia and all these other assholes, but we piss on our neighbors who got more in common with us than these other assholes around the country. So this is what we do. And the people that like to bomb other countries, never served in the military. Let's look at Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump. I'm looking at them all, and none of them ever, you know, they're eager to drop a bomb on somebody. And here we got a guy that says people that got killed in the war or captured are suckers and stuff. And John McCain wasn't a hero. He was an idiot for going to war. But now he's talking all this stuff. And we gonna make America great again, and we gonna you telling the country to surrender. Man, what do you think he playing? Risk that game, the war game. You know he's moving pieces on a board. Somebody should wake him up.
I'm sorry. I want to go.
Go ahead, Jim. Go ahead. And then
Allan. Go back to Iran for just 1 second. Back in 1978, I didn't work for the organization then, but there was a company that was doing business in Iran, and Ross Perot's company, and he sent people in to rescue a couple guys that were taken hostage by the government for bribery. And I'm going to tell you who secured. You know, they went in there kind of with force, and you know, some of the story is bullshit. But what I want to say is there were Iranian people that helped those men get out of that country. It was Iranian engineers and people that worked for that company that helped secure the release of those people and get them into Turkey. So when people talk about Iran, we're talking about a government. We're not talking about a people, and that's what always gets lost.
And you got people in the Trump administration talking about the Arabs in Iran. They look at themselves as Persian. They're not Arabs. There's a difference. That's
Look,
a
the
difference.
government's
What I learned when I was in boot camp, that there was Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, people from South America, because they spoke Spanish, they was not all the same. And because they over there so-called Middle East, and I don't think it's a Middle East, something Britain and somebody else made up, uh, that they're not Arabs, they're Persians, and they always it used to be called Persia, not Iran. So you know what? These people need to get it together. You're absolutely right, Jim. And you want to blow up the whole country, and we sending people back to Afghanistan that helped us over there.
And Stephanie
right.
says,
They helped us when we left Vietnam. We left thousands of people that collaborated with us against the North. We left them there. We left them there.
and quickly,
Hey,
Stephanie, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
No, Stephanie said that death to America, they hate Americans. Why do they hate Americans is a bigger question. Why is it, they are not. There's people that are protesting in New York City at Columbia that hate Americans. So that probably yell death to America. So you're talking about a group of people. We don't know what the
We
mass
had people that raided the Capitol January the 6th that hate America, and they from America. Allan.
Well, as I say, first of all, I mean, the hate, some of it emanates from the presence of the U.S. all over the Middle East. Some of it is that we're infidels, that we don't believe in, in Islam, or at least collectively as a government. And they see Israel as an extension of the West. But I was going to say something, and somebody mentioned about Israel, all the hostile neighbors it has. But I think what gets lost sometimes is that Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, they're not rooting for Iran. They're afraid of Iran. Iran wants to take over Jordan so they can be closer to Israel. They can bomb Israel. Syria, Hezbollah, Iran sent Hezbollah into Syria. They killed a lot of Syrians. A lot of the Syrians hate they don't love the Israelis, but they hate Iran and Hezbollah.
But we know, Allan, Hezbollah is gonna disappear, just like the PLO disappeared, just like all these groups, and another group pops up. Vanessa.
So I want to go to some of the viewers and some comments that I'm getting on my phone. Terry McCrimmon says he remembered when the U.S. killed Gaddafi, the leader of the North Korea. Noticed that too, and
He was from Libya.
He said that the only way to stop Western's aggression is to go nuclear, and I've noticed he hasn't been attacked yet. We also have G Money, who says Trump is not to blame. It's the global powers, but we need to pay more attention to the home front instead of getting involved with a world crisis. Again, concentrates first on home. That's a priority. We also have a viewer who says, Mr. Evans says, that they like Trump. Listen, you could like Trump, you could like Barack Obama, you could like Adolf, you could like Vanessa, but guess what? Just because you like somebody does not mean that everything that they do is right and that somebody has to agree with them. When you decide you're going to go into a leadership position, guess what? You get it all. You're going to take the praises and you're going to take the lump.
But we shouldn't be trying to overthrow people's governments.
No.
When we got a president that says, "Oh, they're gonna have a regime change and make Iran great again." When was the fuck America great when they had slavery and shit? Just say you want to bring Jim Crow and shit back. Just say you just want to make it. Say what you really want to say, Allan.
Well, it's funny. I mean, in the 30s, Hitler was criticized. U.S. was criticizing Hitler for the way he was treating Jews. And he was basically like, shut up. What do you guys, don't tell us, look the way you've treated blacks in your country. Don't tell us how to treat the Jews.
Well, you have to look at the Nuremberg trials where they was defending the Nazis when it came to sterilization with the judges, and they was reading all these laws from North Carolina, West Virginia, Virginia, and stuff where they were sterilizing black folks. Right. They got their shit. Concentration camps came from Britain. They put the South Africans in concentration camps. We put the Native Americans, they call them reservations, into concentration camps. So whatever they was doing, they got it from the West. You know, everybody's been doing what they've been doing. So, you know, and we can blame that person. We can blame this person. But the bottom line is where we go from here. Allan, I want to ask you the midterm election. Is all this stuff going to come back and bite the Republicans in their ass, or are they going to get a mandate to keep moving forward? Your take on this.
Take on this. I think. I mean, you know, the Democrats say they're being set up for that, but the Democrats still seem a little chaotic. What's going on, what they stand for. I mean, you know, the election in New York, the primary is like, should we be going, you know, they've elected the Democrat, a socialist.
But Eric Adams running as an independent, so right. He wasn't even in it.
I'm saying so and so what you have is the Democrats are like, you know, there's people, you know, centrists in the Democratic Party are saying, I'm starting to be very uncomfortable with our party going too much to the left. The Republican Party has gone so much to the right. They basically weeded out any moderates. The former conservatives are now the moderates. But so I think, you know, this country's ready for a big shakeup, and we'll see if parties get lost all the time. I mean, the Republican Party was lost for a long time. People said they're done with it. They made a comeback. Now the Democrats seem like they're trying to figure out, who are we? Are we centrist? Do we represent the working class? Who are we? Go ahead, Vanessa.
So my question to you, though, Allan, he asked you a question. He said, midterm elections, what you think gonna happen? Rub that crystal ball. Tell us what your prediction is.
I you know what? It's too hard. I would say aside.
I don't think he got a prediction.
Yeah. I think it's too hard for right now, because I think this Iranian thing, this needs to settle down and go.
But that's all right. But that's all right, Allan. You know what? It's hard to predict.
Yeah,
it's hard to predict. No question, Jim.
Distraction. What's going on right now to what's going on? Everything's focused on the international stage. There's still crazy shit happening on the domestic side, which a lot of people are dissatisfied with, but that's been shoved aside. So,
ain't no question, Jim. What you think
about the upcoming election?
Yeah, midterms.
You know, I have no idea. You would expect, like every other midterm, that the party that's out of control would win the election, but I don't really know what the heck's going on. I expect the Democrats to take the House and Senate, but
that's not guaranteed.
Just based on history, right?
Yeah, but this history is a whole different kind of history. It's a whole different kind of history.
Can I go into while we're on that? Can I just go?
Go ahead. You got the floor. Go ahead.
So here's where we are. Here's the Democrats, right? I'll call this guy a Democrat because I'm sure he is, but Allan, you can close your ears. I don't mean to offend anybody here. And this Chuck Todd is now questioning whether we were sold a 40-year bill of goods on Joe Biden. He's got to be the stupidest man alive if he thinks we were sold a 40-year bill of goods. Where was he the last 40 years? I know he's a young man, but he attacked Joe Biden for his son dying. How's that Joe's fault? What could Joe have done differently to save his son's life? And here's another thing: when you get along, he's talking about drug abuse. Hunter and Bo's wife were both drug addicts. How is that Joe's fault? They're adults. They're making their own mistakes. They're making their own lives. And here's where it's really tough for me, right? This Mr. Todd is suggesting that Joe should not have run. Well, Dad's got to go to work, right? You talk about Frank Miles. He lost his son. He had to go to work at some point, right? You can't just walk away from your life when you lose somebody. It's tragic that this broadcaster, Chuck Todd, thinks that when somebody loses a family member or somebody's a drug addicted, that Dad quits going to work. It doesn't happen that way. What world is he living in?
Well, Robert Kennedy Jr. wouldn't be in his position if we prohibited heroin addicts from holding government jobs, because he OD'd on a plane one time. So he was on drugs.
I mean, I don't think
Who
that
cares?
I defend Joe Biden because his family members are drug addicts and his son died. I don't really get that. That just doesn't make any sense. He's just trying to sell a book. That's outrageous.
Well, because that's the way this country is, Vanessa.
Well, I'm going to go to comments. I don't know if you have a question for me, but Miss Sheila said, okay, Mr. Jim, once you're done, drop the mic. And she said, thanks, Mr. Allan, for your righteous perspective. Now, Sam said he's just tuning in. Sam, you could catch the rebroadcast and catch us on Friday evening. And I want to do a shout out, not just to those that are watching us on YouTube, but those that are watching us on Facebook. Now, what's your question, Adolph?
Well, we're looking at with all this shit that Trump. Wait a minute. Let me finish.
Well,
Stephen A. Let me finish, okay? Stephen A. Listen, Stephen A. Let me finish. All I was saying, Stephen A. was the midterm election gonna come back and bite Trump in his ass for all the stuff he was doing? That's all I was asking.
That's what I was getting ready to repeat if that was your question. If you had allowed me to do that. But I'm going to say I have no idea. This so chaotic. I have no idea. I have no idea. I would not be surprised if they don't. Okay.
That's all I'm asking. We just speculating. But and Allan, your final thought.
I say it's too soon to tell what's going on with a lot of things. I thought it was interesting, real quick. The unemployment rate came out for the U.S. and Michigan came in the 49th out of 50th in terms of the worst. I think maybe Utah was a little worse. And so the interesting point will be, what's Gretchen Whitmer going to do to try? I mean, it's happened since Trump came in, with the different things.
But the buck stopped at her desk.
Right.
It stopped at her desk.
How she's going to deal with that is if she's a presidential candidate and it remains low.
Nothing. It's nothing. She's going to do just what that wicked witch of the East named Granholm did. Nothing. Looking for another fucking job, a moldy base or whatever. I ain't going to even call her no name. Jim, your final thought.
I want to be personal for just a second. I want to say happy birthday to Rose. That's my mother-in-law. She's 94 years old today. Wow. She escaped Hungary in 1956 during the Hungarian Revolution with a couple of friends, went over to Austria and made her way to the United States. And we're lucky to have her. Thanks, Rose. Happy birthday.
And Hungary in 1956, they were the first country to tell a Soviet Union, fuck you. And you know what? It took another 30 years or so for other countries to say the same thing, but they was way ahead of their time. And now they got a dictator that's basically running the country. Vanessa, your final thought?
Well, listen, people in the comments are saying happy birthday to your mom, Sam and Stephanie and Miss Sheila. They're all giving a shout out to your mom, Jim. So that should warm your heart. My final thought is, listen, we did get a chance to talk about this, but I'm posing this question, and hopefully Friday or Saturday people will be able to answer this. You had people that was just pissed off that a lot of the parks were closed for the fireworks this past Monday. I enjoyed the fireworks because I live right here, so there were a lot of people in the neighborhood who were not able to go and enjoy the fireworks. On one hand, okay, I get it, but on the other hand, we got this mayoral race going on, and they're talking about safety. What the heck went on with these young folks down here shooting and everything else down? What happened? What happened, Chief Bedison? What happened, police? What happened?
Well, we can get the chief on hopefully next week. And you know, the chief has always been straight up with us.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not trying to smack him, but
I'm not
because
either. That's why I asked the question. What happened?
he'll come and he'll talk, and let's ask him those tough questions. I want to thank everybody that watches us and commenting, and welcome back, Vanessa. You know, welcome back. Don't go away. And Jim, you're gonna be gone this weekend. Have a good wherever you're going. Mars, you might be on Elon Musk's rocket ship, or just Bozo the Clowns, whatever. And Allan Lengel, thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
We'll be back on Friday, Detroit in black and white.
Peace.